Joining us now to talk about the UNC football team, mostly away from the field, is Pat Welter, WRAL Sports reporter. I encourage everybody to go check out his article, WRAL.com sports section. The headline, I read it before the break: divided locker room, disastrous results, players, parents blame Belichick culture for UNC problems. Pat, how's your last 24 hours been? Like when you press send on or post, I don't know how the official publish, I guess might be the term, on an article like this, your adrenaline has to be pumping.
Oh, I mean, right before we got it over the finish line, I honestly felt like I was going to throw up. I mean, just because, I've been working on this since the spring. Like I got a tip that things were not going well, that there was some culture issues, that there was kind of a disregard for like the level of schooling, kind of the way, a lot of things that ended up coming out in the report, but I couldn't get it over the finish line at the time. So then when you get the sources start to coming through to a point where you're like, wow, I can report this. And then you forget all the legal aspects and then you have to go over it to make sure it's airtight. And that's what we did the best to do.
Some of these quotes, I mean, I'll read one here quickly. It comes from a source with firsthand knowledge of the program who told WRAL, that's you. It's an unstructured mess. There's no culture, no organization. It's a complete disaster. End of quote. That right. I mean, I don't have to tell everybody what it is. They just heard it, right? When sources start telling you things like that, right? You get a tip that, hey, things might not be going well. Like, is there the moment of realization where it's, oh goodness, right? The Jurassic Park, this dinosaur is out of the cage, right?
Oh yeah,
like that kind of deal.
I mean, yeah, like some of these people that I met working on this story, like quotes like that were the first thing out of their mouth because that's how frustrated people are.
Wow.
Like people, like some of the sources I had were from relationships built over years. Others were people I had literally just met, and they are telling me these specific details of what's going on. And I think that's what you're seeing now. Like it is boiled over. People are frustrated. People are upset, and it's a mess of UNC's own making to a certain extent, right? Like, I don't think I can blame them for taking the big swing on Bill Belichick. They clearly have missed so far. I probably can blame them for maybe not doing the due diligence to find out that maybe he wasn't dialed into the point that he needed to be. Clearly, as we've seen now, hindsight's always 20/20. But yeah, I think people are frustrated, and it comes from the culture that he's created, where it was supposed to be this NFL pro-like system. Well, in reality, it's created a very individualistic culture, a divided culture. It's Mac Brown era players versus Bill Belichick's era players. And what he's done very little to unite that, to combat that. And there's just poor communication at all levels. The actual coaching, the relationships with the coaches, the relationships with the parents, the players. And now you're seeing where there's basically no loyalty. Like everyone's trying to not put this on him, so because it looks like it's on them right now.
We're talking with Pat Welter, WRAL Sports reporter. Check out his article on the Belichick culture and the problems that have stemmed from it on WRAL.com. It also dives into a bit of like you brought up the actual coaching, in which one of the only, I don't even know if it's a positive, half positives in the article is people actually do kind of respect Bill Belichick's hands-on coaching. When he's the one doing the football coaching, it seems to be going well. But maybe the rest of the staff doesn't have that same touch. How much of the frustration maybe missed Belichick but landed on his assistants?
Yeah, I think that's it. Because that's from the beginning of the spring. I've heard that Bill Belichick, as a coach himself, still has it as far as what he sees. One person I talked to said he's a football genius. So there's still things that he sees that no one else does. But that's where it comes to the communication. He has little relationship with the players. Like he's created a separation. Now maybe some of that is how he ran it in New England. I don't know. I didn't cover that team to that extent, but clearly there's a disconnect between the way he ran an NFL program and a college program, something that they maybe thought they had figured out. They hadn't. And, if you're UNC brass right now, the UNC decision makers, from what I've heard from them, is that they want to help try to support him to fix this, to help him. They understand he's never coached college before, but he has to be willing to accept that help as well.
What stood out to me was that part you brought up. Right, they're going to be the 33rd pro team. That's what was one of their sayings, right? They're going to run a pro system and a pro this and a pro that. Is it possible they just bought into that too much? Because from my playing career, I played college football.
Yeah.
One of the little things that stood out to me so much is that the guys that don't travel don't get to dress at home.
Right.
So if you're not like, if you don't make the travel roster, it is what it is. But at least home games, you get to put on the jersey, you get to run through the tunnel, you get to hear the coaches and do the pregame speech and all of those things. And it's, for some guys, the highlight of their career. That's all they ever get to do. But in the NFL, if you're on the practice squad, you don't dress out. There are like league rules against it. To me, that is like, we're going to do it the pro way, but there's no real reason for it, right? Other than it is the pro way. When the college way has been working, and it's did they just buy too much into it? Did they not know enough? Is it like, I don't want to use the word ignorant, but is it an ignorance of what college football is? So they're just doing the NFL thing for ignorance sake?
I mean, I think we're seeing it play out that way, right? Like, it might have been well-intentioned that they thought, but I think this whole story is about the little things becoming big. And that's one example, right? The non-travel roster not getting addressed. So what does that do? That creates a lack of camaraderie. That makes those people not feel like they're part of the wins. Obviously, you don't want to be a part of the losses right now. So at least they're
waiting for me on the sideline.
Yeah, exactly. But so those are the little things. Like, obviously, some transfer players are going to make more. Money, right? That's kind of the nature of the system. But then you have to do something to foster that unity, that camaraderie. And when you're giving certain players and families more tickets, better parking, can dress on game days, cannot. You're just making a list of things that create division. And when there's adversity, you're seeing the results.
The tickets thing is a funny storyline. And just the way it goes, you read in this article that, again, from my college playing days, I remember everybody gets their amount of tickets on game day. And if you don't have family coming, you go to your buddies, hey, do you need 2 extra tickets? Or, a lot of times upperclassmen have a particular like redshirt freshman who always has extra tickets. And if like, hey, like, just your tickets are mine, and I'll free rides around, or I'll bring you to practice or whatever it is. Apparently some of those are being sold rather than spread around the locker room, which is a weird bonding thing. It's hard to explain, but it exists. Then there's a text message that goes out today that just says like, hey, everybody, just so you know, this is from UNC compliance to the players.
Yes.
You're not allowed to sell tickets. If you sell them for any kind of compensation, it could mess with your eligibility. So like I don't like, were people talking about this almost like they were so anxious to get things off their chest that they almost were maybe hurting their own eligibility in the process?
I mean, I got some of the tips I had back in the spring were about potential recruiting violations. So I put in some public records requests, and I did find one. I found a recruiting violation, but it was so minor, and the penalty from the NCAA was basically a slap on the wrist. I didn't even bother reporting it because it's like, oh, Bill Belichick got a slap on the wrist for like slightly talking to somebody when they shouldn't. Like, it didn't even matter. But like, now, again, the little things become big. It's an example of, he didn't know a specific rule. He had just started. Does it sound like they told anybody they couldn't sell the tickets? And I kind of, that was the funny thing. If you actually read the message, they say, the rule may have changed, but this specific thing
a lot of rules have
violation.
Changed, but not this one.
Right, like you still can be ruled ineligible. It's almost like everyone's like, oh, I can do whatever I want now in the NIL era.
You can pay players. Anything money involved is legal.
Exactly.
Like if money is changing hands, we're allowed to now because my quarterback drives a nice car. Like, it at times feels that way, but it's probably important to remind the kids that it maybe isn't. Last part, you brought up that they do kind of want to still support him and they want to help him with the change. You have quotes from parents. You have quotes from obviously sources within direct knowledge of the program. Did you get the vibe that they all thought it was fixable? Like with humility and a little bit like of, oh, hey, didn't know that was so important to you. We'll change it back to the old way. Is it salvageable, or is it already to the point where, at least with those involved in the program now, they recognize new people might need to be the decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all seen what we've seen on the field, right? And it's hard to comprehend how this team that had around 8 wins, a lot under Mac Brown and the program, has fallen to 128th in points per game in all of FBS.
And the defense isn't much better.
And this is my opinion, but when I look at this situation, like, could he maybe figure it out? Could he turn it around? But at 73 years old, what is the point? Like, this was a big swing, and it has been a big miss. Now it's sports. Crazier things have happened. They could figure it out. They could rally around all this reporting. They could come together. This could drive them together. Max Johnson could have an incredible game. He played Clemson last. That's a great team talent-wise, right? Like, better days could be ahead, but I certainly wouldn't bet on it based on what I've seen on the field, based on what I've heard, and based on all my whole life watching football. So I think from a UNC decision-maker standpoint, I understand that they're like, well, we have to be patient.
Pot committed in a lot of ways.
You know what? Like, it's a huge investment.
Yep.
We're here. We're 5 games in. But, speaking to a pretty high-level source yesterday in the athletic department for a long time, which is one of the things that helped me get this story over the finish line, because I ran everything by them. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Before I published this, I made calls within UNC to several different levels to make sure this was okay. And when I wasn't getting pushback really at all, or fighting for it, or defending. I mean, there was some minor things. Like I have a quote in there from a coaching staff member. It's like, it's not my view that the locker room was divided. I didn't exactly get a emphatic, long response. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think I understand where they're like, we have to try to be patient. We have to try to support him. But I keep going back to that thing that this source told me. He has to be willing to accept the help. And when we're seeing a guy that is banning Patriots,
he's notoriously not the guy that accepts help. It would have to be a big change.
That they're not posting about Drake May. That tells me that he's still as petty as ever, and it's hard for me to believe he'd accept the help, but we'll find out.
I encourage everybody to read the entire article. We obviously couldn't touch on every quote, and you're going to want to read every quote. Pat Welter, great reporting.
Thanks, man.
WRAL.com. Check it out. Pat Welter, the reporter on the culture at UNC.